Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne, and today I'm going to be making character designs inspired by different drugs and medicine. The first medicine I wanted to talk about is penicillin, which is an antibiotic, and when penicillin was first discovered and we figured out how to use it, it made a huge difference in the mortality rate of people with various different infections. Nowadays antibiotics are really common. You've probably had them before. If you've ever had strep throat as a kid or something like that, you were definitely given antibiotics. But before that, the infections were extremely deadly and extremely threatening, so this was a huge advancement in medicine. Penicillin is extremely small, so small that it can get through the cell walls of certain bacteria. So the first thing I wanted to make clear about this character is that she's kind of tiny and cute. I also wanted to give her kind of a vintage look because penicillin was discovered in 1928, and it was first being used in the 40s really. It wasn't super usable before because it was just so hard to make enough of it to be useful. I gave her a little syringe because the only natural penicillin that's still being used in clinical use is penicillin G, which is destroyed by stomach acid, so it has to be put in the vein. I also decided to give her an eye patch because the first time penicillin was used to actually cure something was an eye infection, and it was the student of the man who discovered of penicillin who actually was able to successfully cure an eye infection, and this was sort of the start of penicillin being used as this sort of wonder drug that could cure all kinds of infections. I put little mushrooms on her as well as giving her this little mushroom parasol, partially just because I thought it would look really cute, but also because it is a fungus that generates penicillin naturally, and it was a mycologist or a mushroom scientist who discovered it in the first place. So I thought I'd do a little nod, a bit more illustrative than scientific, but still at least partially relevant to the real story of penicillin. Because penicillin comes from a fungus, and because the sepia tones were kind of reminding me of the 1930s and 40s when penicillin was becoming a big deal, I decided to stick with mostly a neutral kind of brown natural color palette. But then I wanted to put in these pops of this bright acidic yellow because penicillin used to be a yellow powder, and so in order to kind of keep with that history, I decided to put some yellow in a few places as well. Unfortunately, there are many bacteria that now are penicillin resistant because penicillin was so widely used, and many people would take part of their antibiotics and then not finish the amount they were told to by their doctor when they started to feel better, which basically trained these bacteria into knowing how to fight against the antibiotics. So this is just a friendly reminder to always take all of your antibiotics if your doctor tells you to, because we could have a real problem with antibiotic resistant diseases on our hands if people keep doing that. Next up is epinephrine. Epinephrine is kind of the clinical name, and you'll recognize it from things like an EpiPen, which is a device used to shoot epinephrine into somebody who's having a deadly anaphylactic response to something they're allergic to. But epinephrine is also another name for adrenaline, which is a natural hormone that our bodies produce when we are in extreme danger or pain. Epinephrine clinically has a lot of different uses, and usually it's being used to save you from something incredibly life-threatening. Adrenaline is used naturally in the body in a scenario where your body thinks that without immediate action that you will die. So it gives you a lot of pain resistance, energy, and strength, and it just kind of gives you this burst of that fight or flight kind of feeling, so that you can get away or whatever it is you have to do in order to protect yourself. So I designed this character as sort of a knight. I wanted her to look really strong and also really frenetic and intimidating. Epinephrine can be used to try to restart somebody's heart when they're having a heart attack. And that's seen famously in Pulp Fiction when Uma Thurman gets stabbed in the heart with a big needle. They're injecting her with epinephrine to try to get her heart to start again. So yeah, it's an extremely last ditch kind of medication. It's when things have gone from bad to worse and you're just trying to get somebody to a point where they could probably get to a hospital. Usually epinephrine is not administered in sort of like a long-term way or in a casual way. It's like this person is going to die right now unless they get some epinephrine in their body. So yeah, generally I just wanted this character to have almost this kind of berserker look, like they're in the front lines. They're they're here in an emergency. This is not a casual visit to the doctor's office, basically. I made her little, instead of giving her like a weapon, I gave her a shield over her arm because she's kind of like protecting your body from something usually. And on the side of her helmet, I actually did sort of like a kind of loose decorative version of what adrenaline or epinephrine actually like looks like. It's like a loose interpretation of the skeletal formula of adrenaline, so it doesn't look exactly right, but it's the closest I could get to putting it somewhere without it looking massively out of place, maybe. So I tried that out. Generally, I think this character would definitely always be on the move, probably shouting, extremely focused. I didn't have too much to go on with the color palette here. Generally, I wanted to choose like yellows because I thought they kind of had that electric energy kind of feeling, and also because there's yellow and orange on an EpiPen. So that's basically what I went with. Next up is aspirin, or acetylsalicylic acid, which I'm sure many of you have taken and already know what it does. It helps with pain, fever, and inflammation, and it is one of the oldest medications that we have evidence of being used, that we still use today. There are Sumerian clay tablets from 500 BC describing the use of willow bark tea being used to help with fever, as well as some papyrus that described it being used in ancient Egypt, which I think is just the coolest thing ever. But yeah, it's made out of a willow bark, and it helps with reducing fevers and making you feel less pain. It actually causes your brain to, it interferes with your ability for your brain to understand that you're in pain, basically. So it's not like it's removing the pain, it's just making it so that you don't really notice as much. So for this particular character, first of all, I tried to make her look like some sort of like ancient goddess a little bit, just because this is such old technology that we're still using. I just think that's really cool. And I wanted this like sort of painful, thorny looking crown sort of levitating away from her head. It makes her look a little bit like a saint or something, as well as literally showing how like the pain is being taken away from your brain. I know it's kind of literal, but you know, these these whole video ideas and prompts, you kind of have to be creative, especially when you're making human characters out of medication. Anyway, so I wanted to show her sort of like lifting it easily away from her mind, and as well I just gave her this super floaty sort of like Roman sculpture-esque kind of drapery dress, combined with sort of the cut of like runway fashion. I got super like loose with this one, but I also wanted to make sure there was like a heart emblem on her chest, because it's also commonly used for patients who have had heart attacks or strokes. It prevents blood clotting in a lot of scenarios, so sometimes people will take low doses of aspirin over and over. Typically, you're not supposed to take aspirin like constantly, and in fact, a lot of doctors might tell you to switch to ibuprofen if you're using it regularly for pain. But for somebody who has had a stroke or a heart attack, it can help prevent that in the future, and they're encouraged to take aspirin regularly. So basically, with all of that in mind, I tried to design this character to look sort of very ancient, very willowy, because the willow bark, and as well I put this like sort of red cast over her forehead, just to sort of represent the fever visually, and I have her like sort of using these strings to pull away this painful crown of thorns away from her head. I feel like she ended up definitely looking like some kind of strange deity, and that was sort of on purpose. So yeah, here they all are together. I hope you enjoyed watching me create characters from different medications and drugs. I know this is a weird idea for a video, but I love doing this kind of thing, so thank you for coming along for the ride. Thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's video. A VPN is a virtual private network, and it allows you to access otherwise region-locked things on the internet, as well as protecting your IP address while you're online. When I was in college, I would travel back and forth from Canada and the US really frequently, and I used to get so annoyed that certain Netflix shows I was watching wouldn't be available depending on where I was. But with ExpressVPN, you can access everything no matter where you are. I found it very simple to use. All you need to do is select the country you want and click connect. Also, when you're traveling, ExpressVPN can help protect your information when you're logging onto like sketchy airport or hotel Wi-Fi, which can give you some peace of mind. ExpressVPN is super fast and they have servers all over the world. You can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by going to expressvpn.com/LavenderTowne. Thank you again to ExpressVPN for supporting the channel. Huge thank you to all of my patrons, including Dumb Possum, Hannah Kendall, Jabber Dabber Doo, Teddy Spaghetti, Avant Grape, Gender Was Stolen, Haley, Beelzeboof, For Spookable, Figish, it's Jamal, Kay, Rodrigo, Kubo, Momok, Kadaria, Deadly Nightshade Art, Maria Vasquez, Astrofox Art, Middle Z, Lily Allure, The Expressive Poker Face, Morrissey Axolotl, Subaki, Michael Lavali, Cutie Pie, Rune Raincrow, Rainwater Pearls, Ice Cream Pal, Kola, and Sadmia, your boy ST, JJ Jade, and of course, Libla Blah Blah.